Yo, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Two-Man Game. Y'all know the drill. I'm Cone Connor. This is Ryan. We wanted a little bit of a hiatus, took about a month off, went home for the holidays. We also went to Oklahoma City. I went there for a fan event for the Thunder podcast that I do, which is a lot of fun. Ryan came with. Our dad was there. It was a great time. So we've been nonstop traveling, doing a lot of family stuff. So took a bit of a break, but the podcast is back right in time for trade deadline season. We got the All-Star break right around the corner as well. And we've reached the halfway point of the year. I know the Thunder last night played their 41st game of the season. Don't know where the year is gone, the fact that we're halfway through the season now, but thought this would be a good time to go ahead and make a bounce back episode with grading every team at the halfway point of the season. But before we get into that, Ryan, how are you doing?
Not bad, man. You know me, I got one of my disc golf tournaments tomorrow. The high, I believe, is 28 degrees. It snowed 2 inches where I'm going to play tomorrow. So kind of hoping I can, one, get there, two, not get hypothermia, and three, I hope the course kind of has like a nice layer of snow on it. So it's like kind of clean, but like not obtrusive to play. So we'll see how it goes. But overall, I've been doing pretty good, man. My body is finally recovered from our crazy basketball series that we did last Friday in Oklahoma City. We did a I guess Pals versus Thunder Media game. Basically just a lot of the guys that write for the Thunder in the Oklahoma City area. We kind of organized like a basketball, like some scrimmages. And man, I hadn't played full court basketball in probably 2 years and not probably any basketball in 6 months. So I think it was about 4 or 5 days where like my overall body was feeling terrible. And then my foot was in freaking shambles.
Yeah, Ryan's foot was going through it. He had a blister the size of my head on the bottom of his toe. So
it was really bad. My feet were not used to my basketball shoes. So, but it was good, man. Like Connor was saying, we had family stuff. It was, I think, right before Christmas is when we posted last. So we had that going on. Connor and I went away for New Year's as well. And then we went away for Oklahoma City. So it seemed like the combination of that and us like hanging out in person, because we've been talking about doing like an in-person pod, but it just seems like we would just either be doing stuff with friends or family or whatever and just never really got to it. So we're back to being across the Eastern Seaboard from each other and back to potting. So like Connor was saying, we're going to be ranking some teams. And let me preface, we're grading them. Even though just the ranking, we're grading them. So when you say like, oh, why is this team an S tier when they have 10 more wins than this team or whatever, for example, remember we're grading. This isn't a ranking. So someone's going to screenshot this. And either we have a non-playoff team in B tier and they're going to be like, huh?
But, so we are grading teams, which I guess would be a good time to go ahead and pull up the tier list. So, Ryan, do we want to do this as S or A plus? We talked about this. Do we want to get, because it's like a grading scale. Do we want to keep it as an S?
I mean, considering I never got S on any assignments, but S means satisfactory technically when you're in like second grade. So
that's true. We'll go with an A equals or an A plus. Yeah. So we're grading teams, which basically means we're going to go through, and this is relative to like expectations. We're going to talk about why each team is where they are. We're going to debate because we haven't made our list yet. We're going to kind of do it on the fly with each other. And it's pretty much going to be relative to the expectations you had for the team coming into the season. Are they trying to be a contender? Are they a rebuilding team? Were they hoping to take a jump but aren't doing so? Are they taking a surprising jump? Where would you rank this team? And it's just a chance for us to go ahead and talk a little bit about every team at the halfway point in the season. I'm sure we'll also talk a little bit about what their future looks like because, like I said, the trade deadline is right around the corner. It's February 8th, so we're almost there at this point. So just kind of a fun way to go ahead and recap the first half of the season. I think almost every team has played up to the 41 games at this point. I see like the Cavs have played like 39, so not every team is quite there, but it's close enough. So yeah, we can go ahead and get ready to it. But first, leave a like and subscribe on the YouTube video if you're here on the channel. If you're listening on Spotify or another platform, make sure to also rate it 5 stars. Download, come over to the YouTube channel, like and subscribe, all those things. Ryan, thank you for putting up for a second, I thought you were saying 10 stars. No, don't tell them I put up. They gotta come on to YouTube to see what I put up. Okay, that's true. That's true. So we appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all sticking with us through the little bit of a hiatus. Not going to happen again for the rest of the season. So let's go ahead and start off with we have your Sixers actually here at the first spot. So I guess we can just go ahead and start with them first. Ryan, where would you currently rank the Sixers? At the moment, they are 26-13, third in the Eastern Conference, 5 games back of the Celtics. Embiid's looking like an MVP candidate. Tyrese Maxey's been incredible. He looks like an all-star. Where would you put the Sixers at the moment on the tier list?
I'm in between A and B, but I'm leaning towards A simply because the Sixers, this is a new coach. This is the 3rd season in a row where there was like some kind of blasphemy going on at the beginning of training camp. And I just really think that the team has played pretty well. They went, they had the best start since I believe 2001, last time, they did any damage in the playoffs. at this year. So I kind of want to go with A tier for them. I think, like you said, Joel Embiid's still going off an MVP level. Maxi's cooled off a little bit, but he's still on that borderline, hopefully making the All-Star team. I think he might be one of those last two guys in, I think. So hopefully he still makes the team. Tobias is killing me because he's terrible, and then he goes off, and everyone's like, "Oh, see, Tobias is good," and then he has
Stan Van Gundy was growing crazy over Tobias in that Nuggets Sixers game. He loves Tobias Harris.
I can imagine, man. I wasn't even able to watch with sound on because my TV was lagging so badly, so it was just skipping frames. So I have no idea what Stan was saying about him during that game. But I think I'm gonna go A simply because Embiid's playing his brains out again. If he had played a couple more games, he would be the front runner for MVP. And honestly, even without the games, he's still there right now. And
if he plays the 65 games, he's almost assuredly going to win MVP with the way he's playing. I mean, he's averaging like 35 a game. So.
Did you see the picture of the Sixers wearing like all the crowns and the capes with with Pat Bev and Marcus Morris? Bro, the dog Sixers, they're nice, man.
I will say, I've been a believer in the Sixers, but this team feels a little bit different than the Sixers of the past, I would say, because I think Nick Nurse is a way better coach than Doc Rivers, and Embiid is playing the best basketball we've ever seen from him, having one of the best individual seasons we've really ever seen. Maxey stepped up in a big way. They've got a chance to swing things at the deadline. And I think all that taken into account with the James Harden situation at the beginning of the year, and the fact that they're only one game back at the 2 seed, if they can land that 2 seed, that's huge for them to be able to, or I guess either one of those spots, you would avoid the Boston Celtics going into the second round. But if you could snag home court advantage against a team like the Bucks, potentially, that's big. I think this is an A season for them. It's not been perfect by any means, Embiid dealing with those injuries and stuff. And you still do want to see a little bit more consistency out of like a Tobias Harris, for example. You really, for the Sixers, it's hard to give them anything that's too passing until we see what they do in the playoffs, because that's really when it matters at this point for this team.
Like they're always going to be a really good regular season team as long as Embiid's on the team. Doesn't matter who else is there.
Yeah, so I'm down. I'm down with the A. Okay, Washington Wizards. Currently sitting at a record of 7-33. That is good for second worst in the Eastern Conference.
I'm actually going to the if the Pistons were get delegated, is that or relegated when you go down?
Relegated. That's all right.
If the Pistons were relegated, I'd be going to the toilet bowl tomorrow night. Actually, I live in Virginia, and I'm going to Northern Virginia for my disc golf. And the Wizards are playing the Spurs, so my buddy Matt and I are going to see the Wemby versus Bagley show in DC tomorrow, so it should be a good time. But I would say, honestly, even though they've been terrible, we all kind of assumed they were going to be terrible, so I don't think it's fair to give them like an F.
Yeah, I don't think so. I put them in about D.
I would say D simply. I would go D because we still want them to trade some of these guys that they have on the roster. Like Tyus Jones should probably get flipped. You're convinced Kuzma's gone, but I don't know. I think the Wizards might be slightly too incompetent, so I don't think they will.
Yeah, I'm even tempted to give them a C. I won't give them a C because I think if like Jordan Poole is balling out and stuff like that, like I'd probably move them up. But it's not fair to give them an F as bad as they've been. If we're talking like tiers of teams right now, they're an F tier team. But at the very least, Bilal Coulibaly's looked good. Denny Avdia's had a good year. And they're getting guys that are raising trade value like Tyus Jones, for example. Kuzma's got a lot of trade value. Gafford, I think, could be a piece that could be on the move. I mean, they got 2 second-round picks for taking on Marvin Bagley. They already made a solid move so far.
We both agree that was weird for the Pistons, but I really like that trade for the Wizards. I thought that was a good trade.
Me too. Bagley wasn't bad for that team. He just kind of got shipped out of the rotation, and he looked great in this first game. I mean, they didn't win. They got blown out.
I'll report back on game 2.
Pretty good. Yes, Ryan will be our field reporter about the Marvin Bagley experience. Yeah, I agree they're a D-tier team. Like, they're not – we knew they weren't going to be good. This was the first year of the rebuild. They're tanking, so it's to be expected. Speaking of teams, though, that maybe were supposed to be good and aren't, the Atlanta Hawks, 17-23, the 10 seed at the moment.
I think that nothing. I think they got to be F, man.
I think I'm also probably on an F tier for the Atlanta Hawks. This is a team that I thought was going to be decent this year. I think we put them at like the 6 or the 7 spot in the Eastern Conference when we made our rankings before the season.
I think we were both pretty convinced they were going to be middle of the pack in the playoff teams.
They've been terrible. Like, it's been really, really bad. They got DeJounte Murray game winner last game for a win, which, kept them out of the current. They would be the 11th seed right now, I think, if they didn't get that game winner. I mean, they're right there with the Brooklyn Nets and the Toronto Raptors, who we thought those teams could be decent this year, but neither one of them have been good. And like the Raptors just trade away like Siakam and OG Anunoby, and the Hawks are still right there with them. So it's been a complete disaster. Really, the saving grace for them is Trae Young's been really good this season, but the fact that he's playing out of his mind and it hasn't mattered, I guess, moves him down. Part of me wants to move up to D because at least like Jalen Johnson's played well, but it seems like they're heading towards.
But this team has been so mediocre for so long, and the fact that they made like moves to get better, and they're still terrible. I think until something gets done, it's an F of a C. Like if you went up to a Hawks fan and you said, you know what I mean, they would say this is an absolute failure, like not being in the playoff race currently.
That's fair. Yeah. Okay, move on to the Cleveland Cavaliers, the 4 seed right now, 24-15. I think I'd probably put them at like a B, I would say.
I was thinking B too, simply because even though they've got pretty much an identical record to the Sixers, I think there's like a 1 or 2 game difference in the standings. They just haven't been healthy, and they really haven't had their full team on the court for more than a couple games at a time. Mobley's been out long term.
Garland's missed a bunch of time.
Allen's been looking pretty good though without Mobley there.
He's been great,
which is interesting because we've always talked about how we think Allen and Mobley together are really good, like defensively as a 4-5 combo. But it is interesting about how much better each one plays when the other one's not there. So you kind of have to weigh, like, as a team, are they better with one of them, anchoring it, or are they better with them together? Which I think is a good conversation. But kind of like what you were saying, Garland's missed a lot of time. Even Donovan Mitchell's missed some time. So, and they've, there was a Rubio incident who they thought was going to be a really, important rotation player for them. So they've just kind of been like all over the place, I think, with their roster. So
I mean, my expectation for them was right around this. I had them, I think, as a top 4 seed coming into the season. I think I had them as like the 3 or the 4. So they are right where I thought they would be, which you think would put them right out of a C tier. But the fact that they are where they are at the moment with all those injuries, I think speaks to the fact that they can do great things when they're healthy. We just haven't seen enough for me to move them up to like an A tier or something like that because they just haven't had guys on the court. So I'm cool with a B for the Cavaliers, maybe like a B plus if I had to like.
If we had pluses in mind,
change it a little bit. Yeah,
definitely closer to a B or closer to A than C, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. The Detroit Pistons. I think there's only one spot for this team.
No. Wait. Before you give a grade, hear me out. I don't think they're F tier, simply because
I'm not hearing you out.
Because of the entertainment level they've given us. Like those basketball games where they were chasing that streak and how into Detroit basketball everyone was, I think that at least warrants a D tier, just because they've been kind of fun.
If this was an entertainment tier list, I would agree. But the fact that we're doing basketball teams, be A. Oh yeah. Oh, actually S. I mean A plus, whatever. If it was entertainment tier list, I cannot put them any higher than F. Straight off basketball. As much as I like that argument, they're 4-37. They're on pace for halfway through the season. They're on pace for 8 wins. It would be the worst season of all time. This was a year they were supposed to at least try and make a play and push. I didn't think they were going to make it. I think we had them as like the 13 seed or something like that. But I mean, even doing that, like we thought they would at least look better. They've fallen off a cliff from last season when they were already a 17-win team. Monty Williams has not done a good job coaching. Cade's done his best. He's willed them to 4 wins. They made a trade that I don't really like with bringing in Gallinari and Muscala, which, shout out to the Thunder Legends and everything like that. But they traded a couple second-round picks to bring in Marvin Bagley, gave him a contract, and then not long afterwards had to give up 2 second-round picks to dump him. They're just a disaster over there in Detroit right now. Even if they get a top pick.
Do you know?
I don't remember what second-round picks.
I would say probably not, because I think there would have been a little bit more of an uprising if they, considering their second-round pick is basically late first.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it's a disaster over there in Detroit. The only saving grace is Cade Cunningham. Jaden Ivey's had some good moments now that he's finally getting to play. Sorry, Thompson had a great start to the season, but the shooting is awful, and he's kind of went up and down in the rotation a little bit. I just really don't know what to do with Detroit right now. They might trade for a big name at the deadline. I guess we'll see. It doesn't really move me whatsoever. I don't care who they add. Nothing they're going to do moves me. They're building up cap space in the offseason for one of the worst free agent classes we've seen in a minute, especially if Paul George signs an extension. Then there's basically nobody out there because OG's probably going to re-sign with the Knicks. Siakam seems pretty happy over there in Indiana. There's not any big name free agents out there that are really worth gathering all this cap space up. But that's what they're doing. So I don't know if they're going to just try and sign a couple of mediocre guys, or not mediocre, but not high level, all-star players that are going to save this team.
I think they might do a Knicks offseason from a couple off seasons ago where they signed Julius Randle, Marcus Morris, Elfrid Payton, Bobby Portis, where they just signed everybody in free agency and everyone's like, what the hell is going on? And I can see the Pistons.
I would be surprised like that. Anything to get them wins. I don't know, man. I really don't even know what the path is forward for them anymore because You would think when you're bad, the goal is to tank and you get top prospects. They've got a bunch of lottery guys. It hasn't mattered. They still stink. So do you bring in all-star players and try and rush the process? But like right now, I don't know if they have the guy on the roster. Like, is Cade Cunningham going to be the guy? I think he's capable of it.
I think he's capable of being a 1 or 2 if you have the right people around him, but they don't have even like a 4 or 5, I think, on the roster right now.
That's it. Like, I haven't seen enough from Cade to this point where I'm 100% sure he can be your number 1 guy and, carry you to a championship, because they don't have a lot of great supporting pieces. So you're going to tap all your cap space and guys that you may have to trade down the line. I don't know. Like, it's just a team that I really don't know what they do. They're just kind of in the middle. I'm glad they actually got some wins now. Like, they picked up a couple, one against the Raptors to prevent themselves from setting the worst streak in North American sports history, which would have been
they lucked out with that OG trade happening right before the game.
They did. That was a blessing from the Raptors. So they got to show them a little bit of love
RJ and
there.
Emmanuel quickly are on that team. They do not win.
They do not win. Or if, OG is actually there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Not much else to say about the Pistons. We haven't gotten to talk about them in a while since they really went on the losing streak. So it was nice to rant about them for a little bit. But Pistons fans, I'm sorry. Okay. Indiana Pacers. Currently in the standings, they are a 7 seed, 24-17, 8 games back of the 1 seed. I think I would also go an A. Mainly because, this is where I kind of pictured they would be. But Tyrese has been even better than I was expecting. And I think the Pascal Siakam trade's a home run. I haven't talked to you that much about the Siakam trade. I absolutely love it for them. Assuming
I watched your video actually, because it happened when I was at work. And so I didn't get to see much of it. So I put your video on and listened to it on my drive home. So thank you for informing the fans that work the 9 to 5. I'm honored. Or I guess in my case, it's 7 to 5:30s.
Look at the support. Yeah, it's a trade that I think, as long as he stays, is really we're going to look back on it and go, like, that was an amazing move. They gave up 3 first-round picks, not super valuable first-round picks. Bruce Brown, you hate to see him go, but if you can bring him Siakam, it's certainly worth it. And then you give out Jordan Nwora, who I know you love. You've been a big Jordan Nwora fan for a while, but he really wasn't part of your rotation that much. Siakam and Tyrese are going to have an amazing 2-man game. It's hard to get like an all-star caliber player in Siakam into Indiana. You have to do it through trade. You're not going to sign him in free agency. So they had to go ahead and grab him now. Didn't give up that many valuable assets. I think it's a home run deal. And I think we're going to see a skyrocket up the standings from the Pacers. I think Siakam changes things a lot more than people realize for that team. I believe tonight is the debut of Tyrese and Siakam as a duo.
We'll see if they beat him by 50 like the Thunder did when we were there.
Yeah, beat him by 62 even. So we'll see, but I really like this duo. If they hadn't made the trade, I'd probably put them at like a B, but with the trade, I'm going to put them in an A.
Yeah, I think performance-wise in the trade, it just makes it them really – it's just awesome to see a team that – they didn't even really have like the stink phase, you know what I mean? Like all these other teams have been really bad. Like when the Pacers kind of blew it up with getting rid of Sabonis, and they got rid of Malcolm Brogdon, then Oladipo. Like they like shipped out all their guys, and it's kind of cool how they were like kind of mid for like a couple seasons, but they were never like a dumpster fire like some of these other teams were. They just seemed to bounce back really fast, and so I think that was a really cool like retool versus a rebuild for the Pacers, and it's nice to see them back to being pretty solid.
Yeah, and that's the value of, and this is something the Thunder did, which kind of made me hyper aware of it. The value of getting back a star player for the future in your like initial trade, it's monumental. When they decide to blow it up and they gave up Sabonis and started off with Tyrese, that's monumental.
Or like you got
rebuild. The Thunder did it with Shea. There's one other team, I'm forgetting who did it now. I think I mentioned this in a video the other day. What other team was I thinking about?
Now I'm like
I don't remember who.
Now I'm like scanning the teams and looking.
Yeah, I'm scanning the teams right now as well. I'm trying to figure out what teams did I make videos about recently that I would have been talking about this with. I'm going to my channel now. The Jazz, Lauri Markkanen, for example, like getting a player like that, as well as even Colin Sexton, who's balling out right now. To get players that can be foundational pieces of your core in those initial trades are huge, because the Jazz also kind of skipped that phase of just being really bad. They're a pretty solid team. And this year, we're going to get to them in a moment. They've been amazing as of late. Like last night, they pushed the Thunder to the brink in a game where we played pretty well. So it's a big win for teams when you can go ahead and start off that process with a young player like a Tyrese. And now you give him a co-star in Siakam less than 2 years after you acquired Tyrese. Like they saw he was balling out and they said, okay, we need to get him a number 2, because other rebuilding teams, like young teams, have a bona fide number 2. They really don't have that right now. Like they've got a bunch of solid options, but not really like a championship number 2 guy. Siakam has been a championship number 2 guy already. So that's a win for you.
Heck yeah.
Okay. Let's go on now to the Milwaukee Bucks. 28-13, 4 games back of the Celtics as the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference right now. I think I'd probably go with like a B.
I was leaning more towards the C tier.
It's tough.
It's crazy putting a 2 seed that low, but they've just been so inconsistent. Definitely not A. I'm cool with either B or C, but they've just been so inconsistent. Dame is either putting up 40 or 9. Like, I feel like there's been no in between. Like, if you look at his stats overall, like, he's probably going to make the All-Star team or be on the brink of it. But the dude has been like nowhere near close to consistent. It's been all over the place. The defense stinks, which is probably why that crazy rumor came out. We're recording this Friday, January 19th, about DeJounte Murray potentially being a Buck from Chris Haynes. Like, they were having interest in that. Like, they're down bad for defense, and it's hilarious because Connor hated the trade because he didn't like Trae Young and DeJounte together. I'm sure you don't love DeJounte and Dame together either that much.
Not really, no.
But I don't know, man. I think they're still going to make some noise. They're still a really good team, and they'll make some trades and stuff. But the eye test just doesn't support the record, in my opinion. Like, when they're at their best, they're pretty good, but it's not like that. Like, they only have like 5 less wins than the Celtics, but the Celtics have been so much better than them, in my opinion. Like, way more.
Even though the Bucks did destroy the Celtics the other day.
Yeah, they did, but as a whole,
singular results don't mean a lot in the NBA. Yeah. I'm tough between B and C. Giannis has been amazing. Like, he's been incredible, but I do think Dame being the big acquisition and the fact that it felt like, to me, it was going to be the Bucks and the Celtics as like the established 1 and 2. Right now, if you ask me, I think the Celtics are very far and away the number 1 at the moment. Like,
absolutely. I agree.
Think they beat the Bucks in 5 or 6 games with the way they're playing right now, which, the Celtics are really good, but the Bucks are supposed to be the team to compete with them. Dame has been inconsistent, like you said. And even though their record looks fantastic, it's the way that they've accomplished it to the point where it doesn't feel fake necessarily. They're not as good as their record would suggest.
They're calling him a Mickey Mouse from 2C. That's crazy.
And the thing is, like, I've made a couple of videos about the Bucks being frustrating and stuff, and people have called me a Bucks hater. I love the Bucks. I'm a big fan of Giannis. Like, there's not a lot of players who I own like a shirt or something of outside.
He does own a Giannis shirt. I can confirm.
I do have a Giannis shirt. I'm a big fan of Giannis. So the fact that they've been disappointing so far, it's frustrating because I want to see this team be good, but I don't know. I also, I wouldn't like a DeJounte Murray trade for them that much. In theory, DeJounte could be a great player for you, but I just don't like him as much as like an off-ball kind of guy. I don't know where DeJounte fits. I'm someone who's very up and down on DeJounte Murray. So, I think C's fine for them, I guess, because my expectation was they would be a top 2 seed. They are a top 2 seed, even though they haven't really done it quite the way that we were hoping they would. So, I don't know. I'd probably put them at
I just think the inconsistencies of Dame, the depth has been questionable outside of your top like 6 or 7. Like, if they're one injury away from like, oh my God, we are screwed.
I think the Dame thing really is what gets me down to the C tier, because he's putting up 25 points per game, shooting 42.7% from the field, 35.2% from deep. Those are all the lowest marks of his career, or the lowest marks since 2015-16, outside of the 2022 season where he had that core injury and only played like 30 games and sucked. That's some of the lowest marks of his career. So he just hasn't found his footing quite yet in Milwaukee. When they get to the playoffs, it might be different. But the Dame stuff is probably what's got me a little bit more towards the C tier if I do.
Can we shout out Chris Middleton for being a negative 40 against the Cavs 2 nights ago?
Shout out to Chris Middleton for the negative 40.
20 minutes, I might add. 20 minutes. And that's another
thing. Impressive, honestly.
We didn't even mention Middleton. Like, he's had a couple like decent games. He's definitely been better recently outside of that terrible game we had a couple nights ago. But he's just like, he was so clearly a number 2 next to Giannis back when they were like the guys, like they were the duo. He's just like a complimentary piece at this point, I feel like. Like, he's just gotten to that point, which is tough.
One of the big issues for Chris, because the offense has been pretty solid. The defense is nowhere near where it used to be for Chris Middleton, which is part of their defensive fall off as well. Because Giannis and Brook are still good defenders. Chris isn't great. Malik Beasley, their perimeter stopper is Malik Beasley. That should tell you what you need to know about their defense. Really, that's honestly
the dude they traded for to hit a bunch of threes as their perimeter stopper.
Yeah, when they said before the season that they were going to ask Malik Beasley to like be a perimeter stopper, I was like, oh God, this might get bad, and it's been bad. So, all right, Toronto Raptors. Where do we have them right now? They are currently sitting at. I clicked off the standings. Where did it go? Here we are.
12 seed, memorized, bro? What kind of creator are you?
I kind of have them memorized, but not the records. 16-26 for the Raptors right now. 16.5 games back of the 1 seed, 2 games out of the play-in right now. I don't know. I'd probably put them running. You have an A?
Yeah. A or B, because we've been complaining that they should be trading people and get some sort of direction, and they finally freaking did it. And they got
That's true.
Arguably pretty good returns, I think, for both sides. They got, like you were saying, they got the young player and Quickly, who we both agreed has a chance to take off and maybe, next level get up there. RJ, who's like, we kind of know what RJ is at this point, but he's still young. He's still someone that I think could use a change of scenery. And they got a bunch of picks for, the two guys they got rid of. And it's just finally nice to have Scotty be able to, take the reins of the team. And so, like, obviously record-wise, they're nowhere near like a grade A or B, but I think just because they finally did what we've been begging them to do, like, it'd be so mean of us to be like, oh, you guys should get rid of all your players, and they finally did, and now they stink, and be like, oh yeah, now we're grading you a D for the season because you did what we wanted.
So that's fair. Yeah, if we're talking straight performance, they've been bad, but I also kind of figured they weren't going to be very good. I don't think either of us were expecting big things from the Raptors. And yeah, I mean, I made a YouTube video straight up saying that they're wasting everyone's time for not making trades. And guys that they've traded for look good, like RJ Barrett, 20 points per game, 55% from the field, 40% from deep since coming over to Toronto. Now, is he going to maintain a 50-40 split? Probably not, but he looks better. He looks more comfortable. I like the role he's in now. I mean, Scotty Barnes has emerged as an all-star. He finally blew it up, right? Started to build around. Yeah, he had a fantastic game last game. I do like that they've kind of started to actually go in this direction. They've picked a direction to go. So yeah, I'm cool with this B tier. I'm cool with this.
Someone's gonna screenshot this and have the Raptors above the Bucks. The Bucks 1 tier above the Wizards. But I'm way more excited about
Raptors games right now than I was previously.
The funny thing is, you could take a screenshot of this this tier list and put it as a thumbnail, and people would think it's clickbait, and then they watch the video and like, oh wait, they weren't clickbait.
Yeah,
it's the actual list.
This is what we actually feel. All right, the Dallas Mavericks. Right now, they're the 6th seed, 24-18, 6.5 games back of the 1 seed. They're half a game ahead of the Kings out of the play-in tournament. For the Mavericks, I'd probably put them at about a C, I think.
Yeah.
Luka's been fantastic. Grant Williams, who was one of their big acquisitions, has fallen off a cliff.
He started off the season really well, too.
He started off amazing, and now he's really, really mediocre. Derek Lively's been great as a rookie. Kyrie's been in and out of the lineup due to injury. It's a tough Western Conference. I figured they would be kind of in this play-in range. Like, this is kind of where I was expecting them to be, although they definitely had a bit of a higher ceiling. But I think overall, just they haven't been as cohesive as I've been looking for. And I do think part of that is the injuries, but Luka's doing what Luka typically does. I think if they make some smart moves at the deadline, they could rocket up the standings because it's not that far apart. Like, even though they're the 6th seed, they're only 4 games back of the 3-seeded Nuggets. Like, they're not that far back of being one of those top upper echelon teams in the standings. And when you have Luka, I think you can do pretty much anything. Like, he's one of the best players in the world. So yeah, I think they've been right about where I was expecting them to be, although some of their additions have kind of disappointed me. I do want to shout Dante Exum. He's been amazing this season. Like, huge acquisition.
That was not on my 2023-2024 bingo card.
I was not expecting Dante Exum to be as good as he has been. I was excited when they signed him because watching some of his international tape, he looked pretty good as I scrolled down accidentally. But I was not expecting him to be like a critical piece of this team. Like, when Dante Exum isn't playing, you notice that he's gone.
I agree. I think my thing with Dallas is Luka's, and I've mentioned this before, Luka's probably my favorite player that's not a Sixer. I love watching him play. As someone who is not methodical and smooth at all when I play basketball, it's not. I just think that's what I appreciate about him the most, and just the crazy like circus shots and all that stuff. I just really love watching him play, and I'm dying for him to be on not like a super team, but like a super roster. I'm just dying to have him have a great supporting cast. So I hope one day he gets it. It's kind of like you said. At this point, how they're constructed, like they're going to be a perennial playoff team. And with how good Luka is, if he gets hot and just goes on like an unconscious run, they could beat literally anybody, I think, in the West. It just, the odds of that happening are pretty slim. Like if he's really good, they can still lose a lot of games, and especially playoff games. So I think C's pretty appropriate. I just really hope they find some way to make a better team around him or ship him to Philly.
Yeah.
For Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, and a first. We'll take it.
Might have to throw in Batum too with that value.
I like Batum. I don't want
to Batum might be untouchable in the
Batum plays all 4 quarters.
That's fair. Shout Batum. 4th quarter yelling, thank God Batum in. Nuggets. I would probably go A.
I'd go A as well.
Yeah. I'd probably go A. It's the Nuggets. There's not much to say about them. Jokic has been unbelievable, even though he hasn't had to do as much so far this year. Jamal Murray's been pretty solid, 20.5 points per game. He's been really good since coming back from that injury, 41% from deep 6.5 dimes. Like, he's been having a pretty good season. They're just really good. Peyton Watson has stepped up as one of those guys off the bench. Reggie Jackson's been really good as a depth piece.
Would be good. I still think their depth is very questionable, and they need to make some depth moves. But I do think Nuggets fans were right about Peyton Watson. That dude can hoop.
Yeah, so it's the Nuggets. They're the defending champs. We figured they would be good. So in terms of expectations, they've kind of just met them, but they still feel like, if you ask me, the best team in the Western Conference, which I think is enough to warrant kind of an A spot. Memphis Grizzlies. I think this has been an F season for the Memphis
I wish there was
Grizzlies.
a grade lower than F. Just like the John Morant suspension to start the year. He comes back and they start winning some games and looking pretty good. Then he has a shoulder injury. Well, I guess you got to rewind because Steven Adams already started the year not being a part of the picture, and he was one of their most valuable players the past couple of years. So Adams is out. John Morant gets suspended, and then he comes back, gets hurt. Desmond's hurt currently. Marcus Smart has been a big failure of a trade. Everyone was kind of excited for that.
A lot of injuries for him as of this season.
And they're playing
he just got announced. He just got announced out for weeks too with the finger injury. He's only played 20 games so far. So he's been hurt. Bane's hurt. Ja's hurt. Brandon Clark's still not back. Steven Adams is gone. Like their starting lineup last night, I think, was what was their starting?
I think it was Laravia, or is he? I think he's hurt too. No, he got hurt too.
Yeah, he's not playing.
I'll see if I can get it. I think it was Tillman, Conchar, Kennard, Vince Williams, and Jackson.
Yeah, shout out to Vince Williams. Vince Williams has been sick this season. That is one plus.
VCU legend.
Yeah. Okay, you did get it right. Conchar, Kennard, Tillman, Jaren Jackson, Vince Williams. I couldn't remember who was starting next to Kennard in that backcourt. John Conchar is one of their starting guards at this point. That's where the Grizzlies are currently at. I will give him credit. They gave the Timberwolves a hell of a fight. Like, Jaren has been having a great season. When Bane was healthy, he was having a great season. It's an F season because this is a team that coming into the year or prior to Ja Morant suspension, everything like that, would have had championship aspirations, or at the very least hope to be again a top 4 seed in the Western Conference. They're going to be a lottery team. In the long run, it may be beneficial for them. Like, say they get a top pick this year, they could trade that to get an upgrade somewhere in the roster, or even draft a really solid young piece for the future. This could be a beneficial season in the long run, but in terms of expectations, it's been abysmal for them so far. So yeah, I think it's an F. It's not really their fault. They've just been so decimated by injuries.
And one quick little tidbit. Since Connor and I live in Virginia, I drive a lot through the Richmond area, which is where Virginia Commonwealth University is. That's where Vince Williams went. They had a billboard. And I think they still have it. I'm driving that way tomorrow. I can verify this. They had a billboard, which was up for probably, what was he drafted in 22? I think it wasn't last draft. It was one before, right? Or was it last draft?
I think it was.
I swear it was. Can you check?
I think it was last draft.
Was it really?
2022.
So it was 2 years ago. He was drafted. It wasn't the 2020.
Oh yeah, sorry. I meant not this draft, last draft.
So last time I was through Richmond, they still had a billboard that was like, "Congratulations, like Vince Williams for getting drafted by the Memphis Grizzlies." I just thought that was super cool. It's like in downtown Richmond, like in the middle of the city off the highway. I just thought that was really cool, and it was still there like a year and a half later. Because last time I went through Richmond was in the summer and it was still there. So.
Yeah, he's been super nice for them this season. Like, the stats don't jump off the page, but especially as of late, like 17, 24, and 10 points in his past 3 games, diming up a little bit, grabbing some steals. He could be a big piece for them going forward. So there is a little bit of a silver lining in him. I think we're going to get our first A+ here on Minnesota Timberwolves.
So here's my only reason why I would keep them at A. And I'm cool with A+, but my only slight devil's advocate to put them
I'll hear your argument. I'll hear it.
Would just be that we thought they should have been they should have been a top team last year and they stunk. And now they're back. But I feel like a lot of people still aren't like grasping onto the fact that they're this, you know what I mean? It's just like people are just like, it's Minnesota, whatever. Like, playoffs will come, we'll see. Like, I think performance-wise are an A+, but I just feel like they're not scaring anyone, I don't think. Which I don't know if that's like a bad thing or a good thing. But that's like, it's a stupid thing, but that's just my thought about it.
I think I'd give them an A+, mainly because, and this is coming from someone who was super disappointed by them last year. I know
you were. You picked them to be like the 2 seed last year, didn't you?
I did pick them to be the 2 seed, and they decided to go ahead and do it this season instead to be a top 2 seed.
You're just foreshadowing, man. A little early.
I was. I'm gonna go ahead and give them an A+ because this season was this was huge for them. They had to get this thing right. If they disappoint again this year, they would have had to make big decisions. Maybe you trade Cat, you trade Gobert. Who knows what you do? But because it's working out, like they look like a team that could win the Western Conference. Gobert is playing at a deep point level. Ant is rising to superstardom. Cat has kind of slotted in pretty well. Jay McDaniels has been good. I like their depth pieces. Mike Conley, I swear he's never missed a three in his life since becoming a Timberwolf. I think they've got to be an A+. I think I had them in the play-in range when we did our like preseason stuff, and the fact that they're the 1 seed right now, like I did not expect that coming into the season. So I think I'm going to give them A+.
Yeah, no, I totally rock with that. I was trying to think of any reason not to give them an A+, but
Ryan's a hater.
No, I agree. I'm fully cool with A+.
Bit of devil's advocate against the Timberwolves. So I made a video. I made it like a hot takes video. And the take I used for the title one was that the Timberwolves are frauds. I thought everybody would understand it was a hot takes video where I like talk about hot takes, and that was the premier take of the video. People just never watched the video and commented like, you just hate the Timberwolves. When in the video, I said, hey, I think that take is wrong. I think the Wolves can win the West. They're really good, this and that. People were not fans.
You have too much. This is a double-edged sword because one, you know damn well that that's what people are going to do, and that's going to boost up your algorithm so you get more views. So don't act like you're the all innocent, like, oh, they didn't just watch the video.
I thought some people would watch the video.
Some people probably.
The video is performing well. The video is performing well.
Yeah, I wonder why.
But
no, I'm just kidding. Nah.
On to the San Antonio Spurs. Okay.
Exposing this man.
Ryan's team he's seeing tomorrow.
Yeah. So hear me. Let me say my rationale because I kind of already had a upgrade for them. I think D or F. The reason why
I was going to go D.
The reason why I would go F is for that BS Jeremy Socon thing that they were doing at the beginning of the season, which is totally throwing off all the vibes and ruining Wemby's development. Considering Wemby has been a lot better recently he's been
ridiculous.
Has Trey Jones been starting or?
Trey Jones, he's been playing a lot more with Wemby. They finally figured out that they should play together, which is nice. But yeah, I mean, they've like lifted his. I completely butchered that minutes restriction a little bit more. He's playing a little bit more and has been really good.
He's not playing back-to-backs though.
Yeah, so not playing back-to-backs.
Which I'm glad he's playing tomorrow and not tonight. So shout out to the Spurs staff for that one so I get to see him. Yeah,
that's true. I think I'd go with D just because I was hoping I would see a little bit more from some of the other guys on the roster. But Wemby's still been phenomenal. Like, he's been incredible. They're not racking up many wins, which is perfectly fine. Like, they're 7-33, the worst team in the Western Conference. After watching Wemby in preseason, it felt like he might will them up to like a 12 or a 13 seed or something like that. Like, he might just make things happen. Hasn't been the case because the rest of the team is worse than I realized. But it also feels like they're purposely trying to tank. I mean, they're sitting him on second half of back-to-backs, partially for health, but I also do think they just don't want to win too much. They're leaving him, sitting on the bench in some critical moments because of minute restrictions. It's a year about kind of just experimenting, figuring out what Wemby's good at, what they need to bring alongside him to kind of maximize his talent and his potential. So overall, I think it's been a perfectly fine year for the Spurs. Haven't quite met expectations, but I don't think they've been bad enough to be in like the F tier. I mean, they've been bad enough, but they haven't disappointed me enough. Because at the very least, like with the Hawks, Pistons, and Grizzlies, there's almost nothing to be excited about with these teams. Almost nothing. Like there's like a thing here and there, but relative to expectations, it's been abysmal. Yeah. We knew the Spurs weren't going to be fantastic. At the very least, Wemby's playing well. And it's not like, with the Pistons where they're in year 6 of the rebuild. This is year 2 for the Spurs. So I'm perfectly fine with them being bad.
Spurs need to go for a goon at guard at this draft. That's what they need. They need a hooper. Someone at guard that can hoop.
They need a dog.
Mm-hmm. A dog at the guard position. That's what they need to go for. They draft a wing, then they epically failed.
Mock draft says dog at the guard position.
Or goon. I'm trying to think my one with goon, but I like dog too.
Need a Pat Bev.
They do. Man, maybe a little bit better. But same kind of
Hey, Pat Bev is pushing the 6 man of the year agenda for himself.
Bro, it's just so funny. So funny.
Utah Jazz. If we had done this about 2-3 weeks ago, would have been a very different grade. But now, 22-21, 9 seed in the Western Conference, 1.5 games back of the Suns at the 8 spot, 2 games back of the Kings at the 7 spot. They're the hottest team in the NBA right now.
I think they're B or A or B.
I'd go A, honestly.
Yeah, my only reason I wouldn't put A is because I still don't think with the roster they have currently, even if like their young guys get better, there's not really much of a ceiling. Like they can be a pretty solid team. Kind of like what happened last year. They're doing like the reverse of last year. Last year, they started off really good. Everyone's like, shoot, the Jazz are going to make the playoffs. And then they kind of stunk. This year, they stunk really bad in the beginning. And now they're like, it all started when they played Philly a couple weeks ago. Like, Embiid wasn't playing, but Philly should still be able to beat that team. I think they were missing some guys too. And they like pretty handily beat us. And I was just like, should I be pissed as a Sixers fan? And then I think they beat someone else really good the next night. I'm like, okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. And now I'm looking and like you were saying, they're in the 9th seed. They're ahead of a lot of good teams, and they're 15-6 at home, which I think is kind of nuts. 8-2 in their last 10. So
yeah, they were. I mean, 15-5 before we beat them at home last night, which is a ridiculous record. Game. It was a really good game. Like we gave them like Jada was amazing. You know, Chet's doing his typical thing. Shea's balling. We're hitting a lot of threes, and the Jazz kept up. The reason I would probably say A tier is, and also. You should want to give them A tier because your expectations, you thought the Jazz would be the worst team in the Western Conference.
In my defense, they were for the first month and a half of the season, but
they were never the worst team. They're one of the worst teams, but I would give them an A partially because like Lowry's still been really good. Their young guys have shown out. Like their record is way better than I was expecting. And the Colin Sexton renaissance is here.
Dude, he is playing like barely even playing, and now he's like hooping his butt off. It's kind of crazy.
The second they moved him into the starting lineup, they began this streak that they're on right now. He has been unbelievable since getting into the starting lineup. Gave us a 30-piece last night at the end of the game, dunked on Shea and Chet by himself. Ridiculous. I think I'd give them an A tier. Also because part of the success in this season, like Kelly Olynyk has raised his trade value. I think they could deal a guy like him. Clarkson hasn't been as good. His value's fallen a little bit, but I think they could trade off of a guy like him as well. Like they still have pieces they could theoretically deal, and whether they make the play-in or don't, I think any outcome is good for them. Like what they've done so far, I think they put themselves in a perfect spot where they can either, let this thing keep riding and maybe they make the play-in, or they can go ahead and bottom out a little bit, go towards the bottom of the standings and get a top pick in this draft. Plus they've got a million picks going forward. I think they're just in a really good spot.
My only thing about Utah is that, and this is why I was a hater on them in the beginning of the season, is of course Lauri's pretty good, but they don't have like the young guy that they're going to build around. Like Lauri's a really good young player, or he's not even that young really. How old is Lauri? Like 27?
He's 26, I believe. I think he's 26.
Well, that's the thing. All these other teams that were like tanking teams, they have like the young dude that's like 21 years old or younger that's going to be like their centerpiece for a long time to come. The Jazz don't have that yet, and I think it's conflicting for me. That was why I was thinking about B tier, because maybe it's a bad thing they're being too good, because I do think they need to get that guy, because like kind of like a lot of these other teams you were mentioning earlier, no free agent's going to sign to Utah. Like it's not like they have a really good team right now, and then they can get cap space in the offseason. They can sign someone like really awesome and free. Like Paul George is like, screw the Clippers, I'm out. I'm going to Utah. That's not happening. So
no one has ever said that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's my one thing about the Jazz, because like they don't have like you can keep them in the A tier, but I'm just like worried that they're winning too much, and I'm really on the hype train that they should trade Lauri Markkanen and bottom out. I think that's the best for because they have all these assets right now. They need to get a young guy that fits the timeline a little bit more, because when you have all these draft picks, I don't think they're going to use them all with salary to get someone to play next to Lauri and try to make a run. I don't think that's their vision right now, at least in my opinion.
I will say, I think Keontae George can be one of those guys. Maybe not the guy.
Yeah, he's I like Keontae George. But I do have to say, when they started playing him less, they got better. So
but that's because Sexton has unlimited amounts of dog in him. So
yeah.
Okay, we can go back and forth. We'll call it an A-.
With me. I just kind of wanted to go on that little rant. So
that's fair. Clippers, I think probably A.
Yeah, I mean, beginning of the season they would have been D probably, or F, but
yeah,
they just look like
I go with A right now.
I mean, even though they trade a lot of their depth to us to get Harden, I mean, they still have looked really good. They went on that crazy win streak for a while, and even though they've kind of fallen off that win streak, they still look really good. Even with some like Kawhi was in and out of the lineup he was in and out of the lineup a couple weeks ago, I think. And
honestly, I can't lie. I'm kind of tempted to move them up to A+. The more than
I would be
more because the Harden trade has been a huge success. Is part of the reason why I was considering it. Their record isn't like, is the 4 seed right now? Yeah, 4 seed.
Yeah, but it's because they started off like 500 for the first 20 games.
Yeah, because the Harden trade is such a huge deal. Like it completely shifted them. They also did get Kawhi Leonard under an extension, which is huge.
And he's been really good. He started off this year really kind of but he's been awesome.
Mm-hmm. I might move him up to A+ with those moves.
Okay, I can rock with it.
Okay, maybe we'll move them back down in a moment, but I don't know. The more that I'm thinking about the fact that they locked up Kawhi, because this felt like this could be the end of this Clippers era. But the fact that they got Kawhi locked up, Paul George seems likely to sign an extension. Harden says he wants to retire a Clipper, although we've seen how that's gone in the past for other franchises. It seems like they've found kind of a group that works, and they're one of the hottest teams in the league right now, right up there with the Utah Jazz. They've been ridiculous. Ever since they added James Harden, and they start off like 0-5, 0-6, they've been unstoppable ever since. So I think those in-season moves in combination with them being a top 4 seed makes me want to put them up here in A+. They could maybe be like an A, like just a solid A team.
The only reason I would have them in A is because they're kind of booty starts of the year. But I mean, if you take out those first 10 or 15 games,
we'll put them like towards the top of the A tier. We'll say they have like a 95.8 right now.
Yeah, they're taking one of those classes in college where for some reason like the A and A minus range is like awkward. Like I know there were a couple college classes like to get an A you would need like a 96 versus like a 93 that most colleges or most even high schools kind of went for. So it's like what? That's kind of what the Clippers. That's the scale we got the Clippers on.
Okay, we'll put the Clippers on that. Maybe we can move them up to A+. We'll keep them here for now. Phoenix Suns, 8 seed, 22-18, 7.5 games back at the 1 seed.
You know that album that Little Dicky came out with today?
Yes.
That's where they should be.
I don't know what the album's called. I know an album dropped. I don't know what it's called.
It's a reference to a D, and I think that's where they should be.
Okay.
You can look up the name of the album on your own. I'm not going to say it on YouTube. But
that was a roundabout reference. Yeah, I think I'd probably put them here as well. I wouldn't put them in the F because they are still a playoff team right now, but it has not looked super good at times.
Even with the healthy dudes, they haven't looked good. Like they've had the big 3 healthy now for a couple games, and it's like they're still not.
Outside of a couple moments, they're outside really of that Kings game and a couple other moments here and there, they have been one of the worst fourth quarter teams in the entire league, which you wouldn't expect for a team that has Book and KD. Part of that might be the fact that they don't have like a true floor general out there. The defense is really rough. Grayson Allen is the only 50, 40, 90 guy in the league. He's been ridiculous.
He's been good. Eric Gordon has been mid. I
think I put him in D as well.
Ever since he requested to be in the starting lineup, that was a funny time.
He said he needed a bigger role, like he's trying to break out at age like 36. Yeah.
So what do you think? Like with the roster they currently like, what's the issue? Because the talent's there, and like I know their role players aren't the best, but there should be enough there to play winning basketball. So what do you think is like the issue?
The defense is pretty rough for the Suns team. They're a below average team. They're the 16th ranked team right now. And the problem is we figured that would be the case, that they weren't going to be a great defense, but that the offense would be elite. It's been above average. It's the 12th ranked offense, but this is a team that has Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal with like Grayson Allen out there shooting 50, 40, 90. They felt like a team that should be a top 5 offense. And if they were up there in that range, they would probably be a lot better than this.
If you had told us at the beginning of the season that they would have all 3 of these players playing and that Grayson Allen was shooting 50, 40, 90 on like decent volume as their 4th starter, you'd be like, dang, what are they like on pace for 60, 65 wins?
Yeah, the depth hasn't held up the way I thought it was going to. They have dealt with a bunch of injuries, which certainly factors into things. But like you said, even when all 3 guys have been playing, it hasn't always been the prettiest. They are in a 3-game win streak right now. Like they've been pretty good as of late. 2 of those wins were by double digits. 1 against the Lakers, 1 against the Blazers, which, winning against the Blazers.
2 future F team tiers coming up.
I would have put the Lakers in F tier, but we'll talk about them. For the Kings, they were down by like 22 points in the 4th quarter and they came all the way back. That was a huge win for them. They play the Pelicans tonight. If they get this win, it feels like the momentum is starting to swing back in their favor. I do still think they're going to be a playoff team. And when they get there, I wouldn't want to necessarily face them, but they haven't been the championship contender so far that we were hoping they would be. So I think D tier is a good spot. Blazers, the Portland Trail Blazers, your team that you were hyped about going into the season, 11-29 right now.
I mean, it's a lot better. I told you they wouldn't be the worst team. I knew they would be better than a couple teams.
You are right. They are not the worst team.
I would probably go D, not quite F, because there has like Anthony Simons has had some flashes of looking really good.
Scoot's like better as of late.
Yeah, he had like there was that game. I don't know what it was. There was a game he shot like almost 40 times. I don't remember who they played, but it was a game where like almost everybody was out.
They played Phoenix, I think. I think it was the Phoenix.
Yeah, that game was competitive too. That game was really close.
Yeah.
Phoenix ended up winning though, right?
Yeah, Phoenix ended up winning by double digits, yeah. But yeah, he shot 31 times, which was, I love it. Empty the clip, Scoot. Just shoot as much as you can.
Well, because I remember I was gambling on that game, and I was just like, Scoot's threes are at 1.5. Because I remember when we watched him in OKC, he didn't make any. but he was just chucking up threes, and I was like, and plus there's more people injured against the Suns. It's like he's totally he broke it in like the first 5 minutes of the game. He got 2 threes.
I think he made like
that was
4
my
or 5
in-person scouting
in
to let me get that win. So
there you go. That's the scouting he's going to bring to the table with Marvin Bagley tomorrow.
Yeah, but I think the issue with the Blazers is I think they could be a little bit higher on this list is if they make some moves at the trade deadline. Like I think Malcolm Brogdon, they need to try to get off him and get some assets back. I don't think they move him, kind of similar to my opinion on Kuzma, but if they could get rid of Jeremy Grant and somehow bring in expiring deals and take on assets and stuff like that, that would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I think another big issue with them is DeAndre Ayton has been kind of a disappointment, at least in my opinion. I thought a lot of people thought he was going to not necessarily be like an all-star, but at least break out a little bit and kind of like because he's been kind of in the shadows, I feel like his whole time in Phoenix, like he's never been the guy. And on any given night in Portland, he could be the guy, but he's just putting up similar, if not worse stats than he was putting up in Phoenix.
It's been the worst statistical season of his career so far. Yeah.
Really? Hasn't been that bad?
13.1 points per game.
Oh my God. I didn't realize it was that low. Holy mackerel. Don't listen to me talk about basketball.
No, it's been rough. He hasn't played in a little while. He's only played 24 games this season. He's done with injury.
He got stuck in the ice, man.
Last night he got stuck in the ice and couldn't get to the game, which is hilarious. Yeah, I was a lot more optimistic about DeAndre Ayton. I thought he was going to have a good season. Hasn't really been the case. The Robert Williams injury as well at the beginning of the year really sucks.
I didn't even remember
basically the entire year.
I totally forgot he was even on that team because that'd be interesting. With Ayton being out, Rob Will could have been balling out.
Yeah, and just never really got to showcase anything. I think they're pretty similar to the Wizards right now, where it's the first year of the rebuild. We knew they were going to be bad. Some things have been disappointing for them, but overall, it's not like the worst season ever, and they're going to get a top pick, which is what they need.
Why does it feel like the Blazers have been bad for so long? Like, I understand that they were like a pretty often a playoff team with Dame and CJ and all those guys, but I don't know. The Blazers feel like they've been in a rebuild for a lot longer than one season. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think it's just because technically I wouldn't say they haven't been rebuilding for 3 years. Like this isn't year 3, but it's the third straight year of them not making the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then even in 2020, they made the bubble as the 8th seed. The bubble playoffs is the 8th seed. So
fake playoffs.
All right. Sacramento King, Mickey Mouse playoffs. Sacramento Kings, 7 seed, 23-18, 7 games back at this point. I think I'd probably put them at a C.
I think if we made this video a couple weeks ago, I would have had them in A or B. But the Sixers beat the living snot out of them the other day, and they were pretty much fully healthy. They had almost the whole team, and we were missing.
It's been a bad few games.
I think that was without Embiid too. We beat them by 20 points.
It was Toby. I think at 30, right? 37.
Bro, if you let Tobias Harris get 30 in your head, man, you gotta hang it up. Hang it up.
Yeah, it's been a rough couple games for the Kings. They've lost 3 in a row now to the Sixers without Embiid. Lost an OT to the Bucks because they couldn't hit their free throws. Lost the Suns blowing a 22-point lead in the fourth quarter because, again, a lot of time couldn't hit their free throws. Not been pretty for them as of late. It feels like the defense is still really bad, but the offense isn't quite as potent as it was last year. Harrison Barnes sucks. I did not like them signing him to that big contract in the offseason. I was hoping they would sign someone else.
Both of us agreed that they should have went a different direction with that. Either trade for Pascal or sign Kuzma. We were both very much so on that train to get that power forward spot.
Yeah, Harrison Barnes just, I guess you kind of keep the status quo, but his last game against the Indiana Pacers, 2 points. They're sorry. Yeah, 2 points.
And I'm sure he's not shot chucking, but the fact that they signed someone to a decently sized contract and he's such a non-factor, I think he
took 2 shots the entire game in 22 minutes, 2 shots. He's not really that involved, and he's not really providing you the defense you really want anymore, which is a team that needs it.
He was a good fit for them in the past, but just at this point, it didn't make sense. We were both kind of okay.
Yeah, the Kings defensively are still, in fact, they're a little bit better. I think they were than they were last year in terms of overall rankings with a 17th ranked defense, but it's still not good. But the offense has gone from one of the best in the league, one of the best of all time, to the 14th ranked offense. And this is despite De'Aaron Fox having a good year. I feel like he's kind of gotten a little too 3-point happy as of late. It feels like he's prioritizing threes rather than getting downhill and attacking. Keegan Murray has had a bit of an up and down season, sort of really rough, but has been better as of late. I don't know, man. It's just not been a great season for the Kings.
Their starting lineup's been changing a lot too.
It has been. Kevin Huerter was really disappointing. He's been better as of late. Huerter I'm pretty sure he had an amazing last game. Mm-hmm. So it's been an up and down year for the Kings. It felt like they were going to regress if there was any one of those top teams in the West that was going to regress. It felt like there was going to be the Kings.
That, I think, in our
we expected this a little bit, so that's why I'm cool with them being like a C tier team. It's just disappointing because I was hoping we would see more from the Kings. So. All right, New York Knicks made the big OG Anunoby trade. There's rumors that they're interested in some other guys, like a Malcolm Brogdon, for example, or a DeJounte Murray around the deadline. Currently sitting at the 5 seed, 7.5 games back of the 1 seed, 25-17.
I think A or B.
I give them an A.
Yeah.
This is right about where I figured they would be, but I think the addition of OG Anunoby is huge. I like that trade a lot for them. It was a decent number of, like, Archie Barrett and Quickly are important pieces to your team. More so Emmanuel Quickly. Long term, I may not love that as much, but OG has really helped this team, and they've looked great since acquiring him. Jalen Brunson has been a monster this season. Julius Randle's bounced back from his... Actually, now I kind of want to put them down to B the more that I think about it. I don't know.
I'd maybe go B because the Mitchell Robinson injury does hurt, and I think they're still missing.
That is true.
Isaiah Hartenstein is starting 5 is kind of like he's a pretty solid, I think, role player center, but which you can probably get away with because you have like a really good power forward, so you can probably get away with it. But like, I think that, and then the combination of like their like 6 and 7 spots have been kind of like a rotating door since they got rid of Quickly and Barrett. You know, like Dante's been playing pretty good. Josh Hart's hurt currently, but he was, you know, doing his typical Josh Hart stuff. Miles McBride is getting some more run. So I just think that they probably need some trades around the edges, I think. But I think with the step up that Jalen Brunson's had and how Julius Randle he bounced back from, like you said, like one of the worst starts like we've ever seen from anybody.
Historically one of the worst starts ever.
But I would agree. I think they're more like a B+. Like I think I would maybe if we're doing it in terms of like where they are, I'd maybe move them ahead of the Cavs and the Raptors. But I definitely think if they make some good deals, that they are definitely more so like that A tier or A grade for their season.
Yeah, we'll see how the rest of the deadline goes. The only reason it's funny, I started hyping them up and then I was like, actually, I want to move them down. It's mainly because I think this was right about where I was projecting them to be. I would have them at an A tier. If they make like another move, you know, Mitchell Robinson comes back. There's rumors he could return at some point during the season. If he comes back, like this is one of the scary teams in the Eastern Conference. So it's just only been a few games since OG Anunoby came into town. So I don't want to move them up too quickly. But yeah, I like the OG trade. I think it's made them better. Brunson's been fantastic. Randle has been great as of recently. Yeah, Randle.
That was who we had the first 10 games of the season was Julius Randle.
Yeah. Jolliest Rundle is the guy we had for the first few games, but Julius is back. Shout out to Randall. Okay, Pelicans over in the Western Conference are currently the 5 seed, 25-17.
Honestly, I was thinking B for them as well.
Yeah, part of me wanted to put them A, but I think it's kind of I'd probably put them right around here. A tier in terms of just like I picked them to be out of the play-in, but that was mainly because I thought they would be hurt, and they haven't really been hurt so far. Like Zion's played, Ingram's played. Neither one of them are putting up these gaudy numbers, but it's worked. I see McCollum has looked fantastic. This is a pretty good team, and we've seen in the past when they're healthy, they can be really good. They're finally actually healthy, and look, they're good. So it's kind of what you would expect. I
think my one issue with the Pelicans is not really an issue, but like Zion has really regressed in terms of like his scoring. I know he's only playing like 30 minutes a game, but I guess because the fact he's actually on the court almost every game is like that's all you can ask for. Like obviously we would prefer like the 25 point per game scoring he was doing when people had him in MVP conversations not too long ago. But I mean, I guess with the fact that you have Ingram and McCollum, you have 3 guys that could be your leading scorer in any given night, and a lot of good role players. It makes sense to why the stats are kind of down. But it would be nice to have one of those guys just emerge as like that dude. I just don't think they currently have the dude.
Yeah, they've gone to this very balanced offensive attack, which I like.
We shouldn't complain about balance. Like balance is cool, but I don't know.
I do think when they get to the playoffs, they're going to need Zion to be like that world-destroying force to make noise in the Western Conference. So we've seen that some nights. We've seen some nights where Zion looks like that type of guy, and I do think he can be when they get to the playoffs. But yeah, that is. You would like to see at least someone like dominating in some way. So we'll see if that's what the case is when they get to the playoffs. Charlotte Hornets, 13 seed in the Eastern Conference, 8-30 on the season. How are we feeling?
Either D or F. I'll let you be the executive decision maker.
I think I want to go D just because I knew they were going to be bad. Brandon Miller's been good. LaMelo Ball's been hurt again, which partially makes you want to move him down.
Just got an update that he's out for a long time. Which sucks.
1 second, my AirPod died. I need to.
I was wondering why you muted yourself mid.
Okay, we're good now.
Mid sentence.
Yeah, I was mid sentence because I was worried about the feedback coming through my mic, so I had to put a new headphone in. But yeah, Mark Williams has been missing time. LaMelo's missed a lot of time. Miles Bridges has been terrible for them this season, and I mean Terry Rozier's been great. Like that's a plus.
He's a guy that
could probably get some value from.
I'd be willing to move them up if they can get something back for him. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, to me, this is the deadline where Gordon Hayward should be traded or bought out. Rozier should be dealt for sure. This is easily the highest his value.
There's no way no team is going to want a 25 point per game scoring point guard. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
His value's
and he's actually like playmaking now decently. You've got PJ Washington, who you could theoretically deal. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded him. Like you've got pieces you could trade. Deal guys away. You're one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference already. It sucks that LaMelo Ball's missed so much time this season. Like he's been back as of late and doing his best. It's just not been enough to get them really any wins this season. I don't want to put him in F because I figured they would be rough, and there have been some bright spots. Like when Melo's been on the court, he's been amazing. Brandon Miller's looked good. I think they've got a decently bright future over there. It's just not ready to happen yet. So
I think it's nice to see Brandon Miller putting together some good basketball with considering how generationally bad he was in the summer league, and everyone was memeing the heck out of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that is nice to see him doing better.
All right, Houston Rockets. As we get to our final 9 teams, we're in the final 10. Houston Rockets started the season off really hot, fallen off a little bit since the start of the season. Right now, they are the 11 seed, 19-21 on the year. Where do you have them?
I kind of want to go D.
I think I put them in
C and D, but
I think I would put them in C.
My rationale
give me your reasoning.
Is how much they fell off and the fact that you spent so much freaking money. And like it is, we do forget that the Rockets were like in this tier of like Spurs, Wizards, Pistons, Hornets, Blazers, like last year. Like now they're a tier above that. But the last year they were really freaking bad. So, I mean, the fact that they're 2 games below 500 and have a chance to make a play in or grab an 8 seed or something like that should probably be something that gets a high tier. But I just feel like the brand of basketball they've been playing just hasn't really impressed me recently. And I just feel like they really have kind of nosedived a little bit. And I just kind of like our concerns were with the offseason is just there isn't really direction. Like, yes, getting all these free agents are going to win them games now. Kind of like what we were talking about with the Pistons, how if they went in this offseason, got a ton of cap space and just got all these vets, that yes, they're going to be a 500 team and win more games. But is the ceiling really there? I don't know. That's kind of like my thing with them still.
That's fair. I think I put them in C because I was expecting them to be a fringe outside the play-in team, and that's kind of what they've been so far this season. Şengün's also been fantastic.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I got to give Şengün his flowers. If it was a weaker, he could honestly sneak on the All-Star team. I think he might barely miss, but I could see him making it.
Yeah, I think he's one of those first guys out.
Yeah,
if you ask me. But he's been really good. Like the fact that he's even in those conversations is a huge win for the Houston Rockets. Dylan Brooks has been fantastic as a signing for them. He was kind of a steal. Fred VanVleet's been hit or miss a lot of nights. Jalen Green is kind of the big blow for this team. He's been really, really rough this season when it felt like getting a point guard next to him and Fred VanVleet would help him out. You know, Şengün's playmaking, more options around him would help him thrive. And instead, he's been incredibly inefficient. The defense has still been rough. Shot selection's terrible. He's just not really lived up to expectations. So that's one of the biggest blows for them.
He's just pure hoops. And not in a good way. He's AAU basketball hoops.
I was hoping we would see more from Jalen Green this season. So that's one of like the big cons. You know, they've dropped off, but they started the season great. Their defense is still top 10. Like that's still something to kind of pull on. The offense has just been abysmal. So yeah, I think C tier is a good spot for them. This is right about right. Cool. Okay. All right. The Miami Heat, 6 seed, 24-17, just a game back of the 4 seed. I want to go A for Miami.
I was between A or B. I mean, I could definitely see A. I think with all the injuries they've been facing, I think the A tier.
That was the big thing for me. That's the big thing.
Well, because I guess, yeah. I mean, that makes sense, especially with how good Jaime has been. Duncan Robinson has had a renaissance after everyone wanted to ship him out.
Ridiculous.
Which I think is hilarious. I still think they need to figure something out with Lowry and make some kind of move because I think right now they're just kind of they're. I can't count the Heat out because they could make another crazy run, but I feel like their ceiling's kind of plateaued right now. So if they can make a move, I think we can move them for a certainty A, maybe even the A+ tier. But I just think I got to figure something out. They got to stay healthy, and it'll just be curious to see if they can maintain their success fully healthy. Not saying this is a Ja Morant and the Grizzlies thing where when Ja's gone, the Grizzlies are better. Like, oh, when Jimmy's out or Bam's out, the Heat are going to be better. I just want to see them have the whole team on the court and play really well for a long period of time. But they had a home run with Jaime, man. He is awesome. Great player.
Yeah, Jaime's fantastic.
Pat Riley masterclass.
I think that's the reason I want to put them in the AC. What'd you say?
That's the Pat Riley masterclass. He woke up for
Pat
that.
Riley masterclass. Yeah, he woke up eventually. Yeah, I think the Jaime success, the renaissance of Duncan Robinson, the fact that Jimmy and Bama missed a lot of time, Hero missed a bunch of the season, and they're still close to being a home court advantage team. To me, that is enough to push them up to A tier. It's kind of similar to the Cavaliers, but I had higher expectations for the Cavs in the regular season than I did for the Heat, because the Heat are one of those teams that it really doesn't matter what they do in the regular season. It's just when they get to the playoffs, they make things happen. Yeah. So for me, I think that it's a similar situation, but I've been a little bit more impressed by the Heat because of the lower expectations. So I put them in the A tier, I think.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, Chicago Bulls. This is a weird one. The Bulls are the 9 seed 2023 right now, 13 games back of the 1 seed, 1.5 games back of the 10-seeded Hawks, 3 games back of the 8-seeded Magic. Where do you have the Bulls? I would probably put them in C.
I was between C and D, and here's my rationale. They completely fumbled the Zach LaVine was completely fumbled the situation. He should have been dealt way before now, and now he's either been injured or terrible. So, and like, there's all these reports. Like, I love the verbiage that they use. They're like, there's absolutely zero interest in Zach LaVine across the league, or like, like they make it very dramatic and serious. But I mean, I don't think that it's probably too far fetched. Like, I can't think of a single team that would be willing to get rid of a bunch of assets to trade for Zach LaVine and think that would make them better, except maybe the Lakers. But who knows? But I do think they kind of fumbled the bag with that. And it's just DeMar's aging and is probably about to leave. Vucevic is like, he's a cool dude. Kobe White has been pretty good this year, so that's a nice sign for them that he's been good. Everyone thinks they should trade Caruso for a first. So it's almost like everything that's been a bright spot about their team is either someone that needs to get dealt or someone that's not really part of like the long-term plan. So that's kind of why I was leaning more towards the D tier. I do think they're playing better, like record-wise, than I thought they would. So I could see, in that case, I could see a C tier for them. But I just think because of all these like weird things going on with their team, it's kind of hard to grade them.
That's kind of why I wanted to have them at the C tier. To me, they're kind of like an incomplete grade right now.
Yeah.
Really, nothing matters right now until they get to the deadline. When we get to the deadline, we'll see what they do. They're going to try and trade Zach. I don't know if anyone's going to, like you said, I don't know if anybody's interested at all. If they trade him, it would be a huge success. They should trade DeMar DeRozan as well if they can. They should, as much as they don't want to, I think they should trade Alex Caruso too. They should trade everybody that they can. Trade Vucevic. Let like Kobe White, who's been amazing this season. Shout out to Kobe White. You were on the Kobe White train before I was. I'll give you that one. But Kobe White, Patrick Williams, let those guys kind of cook and just see what you can do. They've been better as of late. Yeah, I mean, I think it really just, for me, they are a team that I would almost put them like in an incomplete tier if we had one, because we need to see what happens at the deadline. This is a team that we're just waiting to see if they blow it up.
Here's my thought.
The Raptors to me would also be like in that tier if they hadn't made these trades. But because the Bulls are like nothing's happened with them.
If we get to the trade deadline and they don't trade anyone away, where would you put them? Like if they have the same roster.
If they have the same roster, probably a D.
Yeah, I think that was kind of my thought process because they haven't done it yet, and because they kind of fumbled Zach LaVine's trade value. That's why I was leaning D. But I'm down for like a C, more like a C minus, or kind of like you said, kind of like I think that, as a default.
Yeah, if we're doing it in order here, the Bulls are like the end of the C tier. If I had to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
We should have had a really long tier list with all the C+, C- stuff.
Nah, that's too extra.
All right, the Brooklyn Nets. Right now they are 16-24, 15.5 games back at the 1 seed, and things have been bad. They're the 11th spot right now.
F.
I think I would also put them in the F tier, but they can save this with a great trade deadline.
I agree.
One reason I want to put them in the F right now as well. At the beginning of this podcast, there was a report that came out, and I'm going to go find the exact wording of it real quick so that I don't get this wrong. It came from, I think, Brian Windhorst.
Yeah, ooh, love me some Windy.
The Brooklyn Nets are looking to buy at the trade deadline. The word through the NBA is that the Nets are attempting to be buyers, which I think is dumb as hell. Trade your guys. What are you doing? Who are they going to add? Like, I've seen the rumors about them adding DeJounte Murray or something. I hate it. I think that would be stupid.
Anyone that goes to DeJounte Murray, Connor's an instant hater.
No, it's not even DeJounte Murray. Like, if they trade for a Zach LaVine or DeRozan or any one of these guys, why? They're not going to do anything for you. Sure, maybe you make the play-in. But what does that do for you right now? Mikal Bridges, he's not a championship number one. As much as I like Mikal, I think he's a fantastic 3 or like a decent 2 guy. He's not your number one guy. They don't have that number one guy on the roster. So trade Mikal Bridges, trade Dorian Finney-Smith, trade Cam Johnson, Royce O'Neal, maybe Nick Claxton. He's expiring this year, so it depends if you want to pay him or not. But if you're not going to pay him, trade him now. Just get value back for all these guys. Imagine all the assets they could acquire by trading everybody. And it also comes with the fact that they were supposed to be a good defensive team at the least. I just made a whole video on them, so I have all this information ready in my head. But they were supposed to be a good defensive team. They've been abysmal defensively. The offense was really good at the start of the season when they were hitting threes. They stopped hitting them. It's been bad now. They're one of the worst teams in the NBA over their last 18-ish games. I think they've got the worst record in the last 18 outside of the Detroit Pistons and the Charlotte Hornets. I think those are the only 2 teams that are worse than them. They've sucked. And it's a team that's kind of just stuck in the middle. And I hate that they're going to try and buy. I hate that. Trade your guys away. Like, you could probably get a first for Dorian Finney-Smith.
Oh,
you probably get like a late first or a couple of seconds for like a Royce O'Neal. There's a rumor that they turned down 4 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. If they did that, the whole front office should be fired. 4 first-round picks for him is insane. That's crazy value. And now he has not been the player he was last season.
If you're looking back,
his value's down.
If you look back at like that whole trade, because we kind of talked. We kind of look at trades like when a team gets a player back that we think they're gonna get flipped. Like, for example, the Malcolm Brogdon to the Blazers. People were like, "Oh, they're getting Brogdon, which doesn't matter," but they're likely gonna get a first for him, so you can kind of like add a first round pick to like their package. You know what I mean? Like, it's also like looking back on the trade that got them Bridges in the first place. Like, if you're able to get 3 first round picks from him and you look back at everything else they were able to accomplish with that, oh my god, like 3 first round picks for him is awesome. So I'm kind of with you, man. I've said this too many times. It's Ben Simmons and a team full of all-star role players. And there are a lot.
I used it, by the way. I referenced you and used that line in my video. I used that line, and someone commented and said, "Oh, that's true." So
yeah, man. All-star team role players. Every single one of their starting 5 would be awesome on another team as like a second or third or fourth option.
Well, maybe not Dinwiddie. He kind of sucks this year.
4th option. He could be okay.
Maybe.
If the Suns, it's just a good 4th option for the Suns.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't know, man.
But yeah, you get
like I don't think they haven't been bad standings wise enough. It's kind of similar to the Hawks. I didn't have that many expectations for the Nets. I think it's just all the other stuff surrounding them. Like, if I hadn't seen that report before this that they want to be buyers, I'd probably have them in the D tier. But the fact that they're going to try and add on to this thing, I think that would make it a failure of a season. I understand you don't have your first round pick and you don't want to give the Rockets like a top 5 pick or something. You're going to lose it anyways. Do what's best for your franchise. Yeah. Don't worry about like the sunk cost already in that deal.
Yeah, see if you can. If anything, trading Mikal Bridges, try to get a first round pick this year. You know what I mean? Like, see if you can.
Exactly what I said in the video, Ryan. We're on the same wavelength here.
Yeah, get in the first round. Like, I don't know, man. I'm with you. F tier. Keep them there.
F tier. All right, my Oklahoma City Thunder.
I think you should let me grade them because you're biased.
You can tell me where you think they should be.
A+.
That's where I was going to have them as well.
I would go A+ simply because we all kind of thought that, like, them and the Rockets, and some of these like the Magic, the Pacers, like a lot of these teams that were like kind of bad last year or like middle, like kind of mid. We were like, all right, those are the 4 teams we think are going to make more of a playoff jump. You know what I mean? And I think no one expected the Thunder to make the jump and be one of the best teams in the NBA. And the fact that they have so many assets and can make a really good move to add someone to their already really talented core, I just think there's no reason not to put him at A+, in my opinion. Shea's been awesome. He's an MVP front runner. Chet has been better than I think you could have even imagined. J-Dub's taken a leap, which obviously we both knew was going to happen. So I just think as anything lower than A+ wouldn't make sense to me for them.
Yeah, we went from a team that was... I think I picked us to be the 6th seed, if I remember correctly. I thought we were going to be a playoff team. I didn't think we were going to be the 2 seed. Like 2 games back of the 1 seed halfway through the season. This is beyond what I was expecting. Shea's again been an MVP. Saw that one coming, or MVP caliber player. Chet Holmgren is in the right now the driver's seat for Rookie of the Year, although Vic has been pushing back a little bit recently. But the fact that he's up there with the generational talent that is Victor Wembanyama says a lot about how he's been playing. Jalen Williams has emerged as that third star. Lou Dort can shoot threes with the best of them now. Role players have stepped up. The teams look fantastic. Like, I really think that's kind of all there is to say. They've got the third best net rating in the league, only behind, I think it's Philly and Boston are the only two teams ahead of them at the moment in net rating, a top 5 or top 10 offensive and defensive team as one of the youngest teams in the league. I think they're the second or third youngest team in the NBA. The future is super bright. I'm super happy to be a Thunder fan, and we're crushing it right now. So I think
the move is there. Yeah. And no offense to like your Thunder fan friends, but all this like baloney about, oh, don't mess up the chemistry. Oh, if you think the team can win the finals and there's a guy out there that's going to help you do it, you do it. Like, you don't compromise your franchise's future. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, there's a guy out there, let's throw J-Dub and Chet in a trade to go get him. You know, like, no, screw that. I mean, like, if you can go get a guy like Lauri Markkanen, or like, I personally was a fan of Pascal potentially going to y'all, you know, just like one of those types of impact players, and you go for it, man. I get the chemistry part of it, but that's been like one of my pet peeves about the Thunder fans. I get the chemistry and the vibes.
It has to be the right player. It has to be the right player. And it has to be the right value.
Don't get a player just to get it, but if the right dude is out there, you do it.
That's fair. I'm a big proponent of just adding some smaller pieces. I don't think that guy's going to be available. I don't think Lowry's going to be attainable without giving up. Because to me, Shea, Chet, and Dub are untouchable. Like, I'm not trading them at all.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not messing with this team. So I think apparently from some reports I saw, Lowry is kind of unattainable if we don't give up like one of those guys. So I'm not really into it.
I'm not trading one of those guys for Lowry. Screw that.
No, I don't think anybody's going to become available for us. I want to see us. One guy I really like from the Utah Jazz is I would love Kelly Olynyk on this team. Really what this team needs is some more size and rebounding. Kelly Olynyk adds that. I don't want this, like a bunch of Thunder fans have said, like, oh, we need like a Clint Capella type guy, like one of those big bulky centers. I don't want that. I don't want a guy that's slow-footed, can't shoot the ball, because that completely messes up the whole system, which is run up and down the court, space the floor for Shea, Dub, you know, just create space for everybody to operate on the inside, because we have some of the best isolation mid-range scorers in the league. Let guys cook. If we add a guy like that, it completely messes things up. So I'd love a guy like a Kelly Olynyk. I know a lot of Thunder fans would like a Dorian Finney-Smith on this team, or like a Cam Johnson, some people have talked about. So really just any front court presence with some size, a backup big. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
A Mike Muscala reunion.
Would love to see Moose come back. I don't know how many other Thunder fans would. I love Moose. He's a Thunder legend, but yeah, we'll see. All right. Golden State Warriors.
F.
Yeah. F. Real quick, I want to say rest in peace to their assistant coach who passed away. This is just strictly basing off, you know, how the basketball has gone for them. It's been a bad season for the Warriors. 12 seed right now, 8-22 in the season.
On and off.
Yeah, like
terrible.
Steph has not been his usual self a lot of these games. Klay Thompson's been better as of late, but not been a great season. Wiggins completely forgot how to play basketball. Draymond got suspended forever. Like it's just a mess for a team that
he wants more playing time.
Chris Paul has been out for a really long time with an injury. Things are just bad over there in Golden State. Like, this is kind of the fall of the dynasty. It had to happen eventually. Like, they had an amazing run. The fact that they won title separated by 7 years with pretty much the same core is kind of ridiculous. It had to happen eventually. It feels like the dynasty's finally falling. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about the Warriors.
Shout out Pods and Trace Jackson Davis.
Yeah, at least they've got some young guys who have impressed, but I don't think there's any move out there at the deadline that can really save this team at the moment.
Just one quick thing on the Warriors. It would never happen because they're not going to trade Steph, but I would love to see the Warriors blow it up and just have like Kuminga, Moody, like maybe even they keep Steph, like Kuminga, Moody, Trace, and Pods, just they run the team. I don't know. It would just be fun. Or maybe do some phantom injuries or something if they fall out of it towards the end of the season. I don't know.
Yeah.
What's the thought?
Oh, Jesus. Have you seen Embiid's stat line at halftime against the Magic?
No, what is it?
28 points, 4 boards, 4 steals.
What's he shooting?
10 of 14 from the field.
Damn.
7 of 7 from the line as well. Shout out to free throw.
I just got a notification that Grayson Allen's doing cardio, so it looks like all of our praise is down the drain.
The Suns are winning though. Maybe they needed this.
They need Grayson Allen to sacrifice his soul for the win. All right, let's do these last 3 teams. Let's go.
Yeah, let's Boston Celtics, A+.
Yeah.
A+.
Really good.
We knew they were going to be Yeah, relative to expectations, they're doing exactly what we were expecting, but they've been demolishing teams. When you're the best team in the league, it's hard not to give you an A+.
Yep.
Los Angeles Lakers.
Not quite F because they won the in-season tournament, I guess. But I think just because their fall from the top of the league has been so like terrible. Like when they were just on top of the world after they won that tournament, it was like, dang, the Lakers they look like they put it together, and they just they have not put it together.
They just don't have consistency. It's
anywhere.
LeBron and AD are playing really. AD is playing some of the best basketball of his career. I mean, and it hasn't mattered.
Have that terrible game the other night where he had the triple-double and shot something horrible. I don't forget the stat line, but it was really, really bad.
Yeah. There have been a couple bad games here and there, but for the most part, they've been ridiculous. They're looking into trades. We'll see what they do at the deadline. It's probably going to be another active one for them. But yeah, in terms of on-court success, they got themselves back to 500, which is a win, I guess you could say. Like they're 21-21, but they're the 10 seed. They have championship aspirations. It's not been a good season at all for them. Like you said, I don't think it's been enough to put them in F because they did win the in-season tournament and LeBron and AD are still playing well. It's just, and we did see them make a Western Conference Finals run out of the play-in last year.
Yeah.
It's just, hard to put them
The thing with the Lakers, it doesn't matter where they're like the Heat, man. It doesn't matter what seed they get. As long as they're in the playoffs, they're going to make stuff happen. It's just, at this point, it's like, make sure you get into the playoffs.
Yeah. Because, I mean, right now, they're on the fringe of making it even into the playoffs. Yeah. I do think they will, but, with the play-in, nothing's guaranteed. We saw the Warriors a few years ago make it into the play-in, and they were in that first play-in game. They lost 2 in a row and missed the playoffs, so it's possible. And finally, the Orlando Magic. Really great start to the season. Fallen off quite a bit since then. They're 22-19. I think I'd still put them at a B.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd still put them at a B tier because we were hoping they would take a jump into the playoffs. Right now, they are a playoff team. I think they will make the playoffs. And hey, if you're the Magic in your first year, back from the rebuild, I think that's a big success. Paolo's been amazing. He's an all-star. Franz has looked pretty good. Jalen Suggs has popped up onto the scene and feels like a core piece now. You've got some guys that Jonathan Isaac kind of stinks. You've got some guys you need to workshop. Like I think right now it's just about at this deadline and going into the offseason, figuring out what pieces do you now put around Paolo, Franz, and Jalen Suggs as the rest of your core. Do you keep Wendell Carter Jr.? There's rumors they could be interested in dealing him. Do you keep Markelle Fultz? There's rumors as well that they're interested in trading him. Like who is your backcourt of the future? It seems like Suggs is that guy. Yeah. There's just a lot of up and down pieces right now. We don't know who's going to be the future. So,
yep.
But yeah, I mean, I think this is our tier list for
teams so far. Again, I like how it's pretty even too. We did a good job with that. I feel like
I think so too.
But
yeah, we didn't have like a ton of teams at the A or a ton of teams at the F or D or something like that. I think we got a nice little balance.
I like it.
So yeah, this is our tier list. I'd recap to anyone listening on audio. A+ tier, we have the Timberwolves, Thunder, and Celtics. A tier is the Clippers, Sixers, Nuggets, Pacers, Jazz, and Heat. B tier are the Knicks, Cavaliers, Raptors, Pelicans, and Magic. C tier are the Bucks, Mavericks, Kings, Rockets, and Bulls. D tier are the Wizards, Spurs, Suns, Blazers, Hornets, and Lakers. And F tier are the Atlanta Hawks, Detroit Pistons, Memphis Grizzlies, Brooklyn Nets, and the Golden State Warriors. That's our current grades at the halfway point of the season. Yeah, that's pretty much all we got for y'all for this podcast. I think another episode for next week, maybe we'll do like a trade deadline preview kind of thing. Maybe each of us could drop some trades
for today. So it sounds like a good plan to me.
Yeah, go down below in the comments and comment some trade ideas you have out there. Some like if you want us to talk about anything in particular, maybe we'll tweet out and ask y'all for some mock trades that we can like grade here on the podcast.
We'll do some of the YouTube comments.
Want to get y'all involved.
So YouTube comments will get priority. So if you really want to make sure you get on the video, we'll try to include almost all the YouTube comment trades. And then we'll probably do Twitter. So comment down, boost our algorithm.
Yeah, boost the algorithm. If you made it to this point, what could you comment?
Comment stay icy because I'm playing in a cold tournament tomorrow.
Comment stay icy down below in the comments if you made it to this point in the podcast. I appreciate y'all watching as always. Leave a like and subscribe on the channel. If you're on the audio platforms, again, download, rate 5 stars, do all that stuff, all the podcast stuff. Yeah, Ryan, you got anything else before we wrap up?
Nah, man, just excited for next week.
Except for next week, we'll see you all again at some point here soon. We'll tell you how Ryan's big the ice bowl goes over there for disc golf.
The ice bowl and then the NBA toilet bowl the night after the night.
Oh yeah, a fantastic day for him. Also, good luck to everyone out there if you're a football fan with the NFL playoffs going on right now. As a Cowboys fan, I will not be watching any more football because that sport hurts me. At least the Thunder love me. So appreciate y'all watching as always. Take care. Peace.